RL Property Management. Yeah, I'm here to talk to you today about a really exciting topic, which is pets. I get a lot of questions from our clients and potential clients who own rental properties asking if we feel like they should allow pets in their rental property. And we do leave that decision up to the property owner, and a lot of times they're looking to us for some guidance. So I thought I would take some time and compile a lot of the information that we have on this topic and put it all together in one video. And hopefully, if you're a property owner or an investor, you can get some use out of this as you think about the question of if you should allow pets in your residential rental. So first, just for some context, we manage just over 350 units of residential rentals here in Columbus, Central Ohio, and we have a lot of firsthand experience dealing with pets. We know a lot of the details because we've been in business 6 years now, and we've dealt with so many households that have pets. We know how likely it is that they're going to cause damage. We know the costs associated with repairing that damage. We know what the most common fees are in the industry, how much to charge, and so we're going to share some of this information with you today, and hopefully you can use it to kind of guide your thinking. So let me talk about how this video is going to be organized. First, I'm going to give you some facts and background information on the topic. Then we're going to discuss pet damage. I want to spend a little bit of time on that topic specifically. And then finally, we're going to conclude with our recommendation on whether you should accept pets or not at your rental property. So first, the facts and background information. Here in Columbus, we're in Franklin County, and Franklin County, there's some records showing that about 60% of Franklin County residents have a registered pet. And I think that figure is pretty remarkable because I know a lot of people don't register their pets. And so if that's to be believed, that means by far the majority of households in the greater Columbus area do have pets. So if you disallow pets at your rental, you're turning away over half of potential tenants. So that's something to really consider. There's also the case that if you don't allow pets at your rental property, people may sneak them in anyway, and that's a common problem. We find we have some mechanisms in place to find pets if they're not on the lease, and we do find them on a regular basis. So if you don't allow them, not only are you not capturing the revenue from the animal, but they may sneak it in anyway. The trend out there among the bigger apartment building owners and the sophisticated institutional investors is toward allowing pets. So if you were to look at a trend line of pet acceptance rates among big apartment buildings, that trend line is going to be going up over time, meaning that more and more people are choosing to allow pets at their rentals. So, when you think about these big guys, they have access to even more data than we do. They answer to other investors and even public investors in some cases. And so they have every incentive to really crunch the numbers on this topic in a very more in-depth way even than we do. And that's what their conclusions are. There's also some evidence to suggest that people who have pets stay in the rentals for longer. So if you lease to a family and they have a pet, it's more likely that they're going to be there after 2 or 3 years than someone who doesn't. So that's something to consider as well, because turnover is the most expensive and destructive part of owning a rental property. And so if you can have over a 10-year time span of owning a rental property, if you can have 3 move-outs instead of 4 or 5, that's a big lift to the bottom line. Assistance animals is a topic for another day. I'll probably do a separate video on that. Suffice it to say that you do have to allow assistance animals. You cannot make a blanket statement and say, I won't allow an emotional support animal in my residence. Okay, now let's talk about pet damage. This is probably the most popular topic and the one we get the most questions around. I'm going to come right out and make a pretty aggressive statement that fears about pet damage are often very overblown. I mentioned how many units we manage and that we've been managing them for a number of years. I can pretty much count on one hand the number of times that we go to do a move-out inspection and we find a significant amount of pet damage. Typically the most you're going to find is a little bit of cat hair accumulated in a corner. Once in a while, you're going to have some smell, maybe a little bit of scratches, but really, the image you may have in your mind of just, scratches on every surface that's reachable by a dog, or having to rip out all the carpets and the subfloor and everything due to cat urine smell. I'm not going to say that never happens, but it's really, really rare. We have a saying around here, you should worry more about the humans than the animals. And there's some real truth to that if you look at the numbers. We have data showing eviction rates and tenant damage rates, and I think those are a lot higher than the pet damage rates. So if you have a little bit of time in the process, or you have the ability to be choosy in the process of selecting a resident, I would choose to be much more careful about the people I'm moving into my rental property than the animals. People can do a lot of damage in a really short amount of time. Pet odor is probably the most significant pet damage. The scratches actually are usually relatively minor and easy to deal with. Pet odor can be really significant, and actually in a lot of cases the homeowner may cause it. So sometimes we'll take over a rental property that the homeowner used to live in, and they had animals, and they may not notice the smell because they've been there so long, but we come in and we're like, wow, that's a really powerful smell, we're going to need to deal with that. So there's methods, you can use ozone machines, and you can, if you really need to, you can run a few of those for a day or two, and that'll take care of it. Costs in the worst case could approach $1,000. Again, I can count on one hand the number of times we've really had to deal with that. All right, so what do we recommend? You may have gathered that we are going to be recommending toward allowing pets in your rental with some caveats. So here's some things to think about. We recommend that you choose to allow cats and dogs only. And you may laugh, but if you've been in the business long enough, or you rent out property for enough time, and you're going to get some strange requests. Everything from kind of the mundane like birds to more exotic type of animals. And we really strongly recommend that you turn down anything other than a cat or a dog. Just keep it simple, and deal with animals who are kind of a known quantity. We also recommend that you set a reasonable maximum number of pets. We use 2 here at RL Property Management. So if you have 4 or 5 dogs, half a dozen cats, that's going to be a decline from our company. We want to see 2 animals or less. We do recommend you charge some form of pet rent. So if you choose to allow animals, that's really a privilege, and residents are willing to pay for that privilege, and you can charge appropriately. There is the option as well of charging a pet deposit. We strongly recommend against that, and here's why. When you charge either a pet deposit, or some people charge a non-refundable pet deposit, they call it a deposit. It's not really, if it's not refundable, it's not a deposit, it's a fee. But in either case, when the residents move out, their expectation is that you're going to use that money, whether it was refundable or not, to pay for any pet damage, pet smells, scratches, or anything else. So if there does happen to be any pet damage, even if it's minor, and you try to charge them for that, they're going to say, well, no, that's what the pet deposit or the pet non-refundable pet fee was for, was to cover that. It can end up getting into a big dispute, and we just recommend avoiding that whole issue altogether by not charging any type of a deposit up front. Instead, we recommend a monthly pet rent on a per pet basis, per pet per month. Okay, so continuing on our list of recommendations, we also really recommend that you inspect the property on a scheduled interval. We do quarterly inspections here, and that mostly has to do with changing the furnace filters and checking the smoke detectors, but we're also taking a look for evidence of pets at the same time. And by doing this, we're really keeping a handle on both, do they have pets, because you can usually see if they have dog bowls, sitting around, or kitty litter, as well as, is there a big issue with smell or damage, and we can kind of head that off, early on. We also would really recommend you check with your insurance company, because some insurance companies do restrict by breed, by weight, by number, all kinds of different things. Different insurance companies take different approaches. So check with your insurance company and find out do they allow you to have pets at your rental property? Because if there is a liability issue, you want to know that you're covered. We recommend not restricting on breed or weight. That can start to get really confusing because, okay, well, they were a puppy, now they're not, and I'm not a veterinarian, so how do I know that they're whatever breed? So we've always taken the path that if we choose to allow pets, we're just going to allow them. And if you don't want a big dog in your apartment, then just say no pets. And we support, whatever the owner decides, that's how we're going to advertise and enforce it. So that concludes our discussion on pets. I hope you found that useful. Let me know in the comments below if you have any additional questions about pets, and we'll try to answer those in another video. Thanks.